from the train in Philadelphia, snow, but he was used to that sort of thing. I wasn't, 1 year in Canada. And he said to me, my eggs, they do not work. My eggs, you're not mishearing me, my eggs, they do not work. He meant my eyes do not work. And so my non-existent Russian and his limited English, we tried a little bit of French. Anyway, we took him home and he stayed at the Institute. Catherine Berdnikov invited him and took him under her wing to introduce him to the Russian community in Montreal and up in the Laurentians. So the next slide is in 1975, the summer, on Lac La Belle, we were invited to go to Dr. Berdnikov's cottage. Very Canadian, I mean, it's just amazing for me having come from England. And we were rowed across the lake because that was the only way you could get to the western side in those days. And then, while we were there, she took us to this, next slide please. Next slide please. Thank you. Here's the map of the relationship of Lac La Belle. For those of you who don't know, it's a very long lake, northwest of Tremblant. The next slide please.
That looks like my map.
It's exactly like your map. And this is, I'm sure we shall see in Elizabeth's talk, is the beautiful little Russian church that Catherine Berdnikov took us to. All of this was slowly dripping into my head about how fascinating, because I was told, and you know I have another obsession, apart from Downton Abbey, I have this obsession about immigrants, that so many of us, or so many of you, your ancestors had such difficulty getting from where you were to here. I was very fortunate. I came because Neil was offered a job, and we had accommodation waiting for us and so on. So it's always been a big thing for me to find out where people's ancestors came from and the hardships they suffered. And I think we're certainly going to hear some of those today. So this was the Russian church that, again, started my obsession. So after that, I tried to find somebody to give us a talk. Irina Zakharov, a great friend of mine for many, many years, through Lana Delyamchin and through Jim Hamilton, I knew the Russian community in Rawdon, and I asked her, did she know anyone who could tell us about Lac La Belle and the Russian community there? And she wasn't able to find someone, so I contacted the man who taught us all about Baron Orpin, Joseph Graham. Remember, he's been several times to give us talks. And I said, if he doesn't know something about the community, then nobody does. And he didn't. So he said, I will find you someone. So he did. He contacted someone from Photopoulos, and they contacted Elizabeth. So I just wanted you to know that it wasn't an easy finding someone to talk about this subject, but I thought you would find it as interesting as I have over the years and gone down the rabbit hole, found this whole topic. So Pierre, who is a good Polish extraction, and like myself came here easily, he is going to introduce Elizabeth formally. So please welcome Pierre Matejewski.
Go back. Yeah, go back.
Good afternoon to you all. I have no slides to go with.
You don't need any.
Say again?
You don't need any slides.
No, I don't need the slides.
With the voice that you have.
So I'm not sure why I'm here, but when Doreen asked me to come, I said, look up. So I'll try to make it short, and it's really a pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Tlaskoy. When we came to Canada, my parents and I in 1955 from London, England, we settled first, came to Montreal, settled in Vancouver where my father was invited as an assistant professor at UBC. And a few years later, in 1961, we moved to Montreal. My mother was French, and there was an attraction to wanting to be here. But this is 1961. In 1963, so I'm 10 years old at the time, you can do the math, I went to Collège Stanislas in Rougemont. Some of you may know. And I befriended a boy of my age whose name was Abdé Chiriaev. And I'm sure just by hearing a couple of sounds here, you know what Chiriaev, the name Chiriaev. And he was the eldest son of Ludmila Chiriaev, the founder of the Grand Ballet Canadien. He had an older sister, Nastia, and a younger brother, Glenn. And they invited me for a month, as far as I can remember, to their country home in Rodden. So there I went, and had lots of fun. I won't tell you all the bad things a 10-year-old can do. But of interest, perhaps, is a couple of things. One is I remember to this day the Russian Orthodox chapel, best I can remember it's called. I went there for a service, and seeing this wonderfully decorated, really chapel in the middle of nowhere. And that really, to this day, I remember. So I'm here to attest to the fact that there was a chapel over there. The second thing I remember is that the village itself was populated basically by francophones and anglophones. They ran the town. And the suburbs, as they were, of Rodden were split up by ethnic groups. So there was the Russian quarters, I guess, area, or the Polish area, the Hungarian area, and the Ukrainians. And they all had their area where they, I guess, they had their country homes. So just Doreen thought that this little piece of history would be of some interest to you. And in closing, before I formally introduce Elizabeth, my father who had gone through the horrors of the Second World War and was a student of history. Somehow, I can't remember how and when, but he told me that the name of Truiskoy was one of the most illustrious of the pre-Bolshevik Revolution times. So I knew right then. So when I saw the invitation that Doreen set up for this event, I raised my hand and shared my little story, and then she thought it was worth me coming up and sharing it with you. So enough about me. Turning to Madame Truiskoy. You live in London, Ontario, so I'm sorry for that. But you hail from Montreal, where you grew up, I understand.
It was hard.
And the other reason you're close to my heart is that you graduated from McGill. I happen to be a governor of McGill, so I'm doubly happy to have you. And you married an opera singer. Where is he?
He passed.
He passed, okay. But his thoughts are certainly with you today, and you had 4 sons with them.
Yes, sir.
And you're a church choir director, a senior instructor in martial arts, Tai Chi, and a certified seniors fitness instructor. You have a permanent invitation here in Senegal. Not sure we can afford your stipend, but anyways. And you were a recipient of a $2,000 federal government grant to develop self-defense for women 55 and over. That's okay, we're good here. We don't.
It's very important.
It's very important. I don't think we have that problem here, but you never know. Right, Liz, tell me? Huh?
I would say it's a great idea.
It's a great idea. Okay, there we go. So,
There it is.
you've been active on the literary front, if I may just continue just a couple minutes. You wrote Notes of a Plenipotentiary, a translation into English of your grandfather's memoirs in 2016. You co-wrote Russia We Sing, the memoirs of her grandfather, Prince Alexei Obolensky, and edited the Russian publication of memoirs of a Russian diplomat, Kushkova Pol, and A Living Voice of Memory, a family saga. So quite involved with the history of her family and Russians as well. It's very nice to see. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to the podium. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. Welcome.
Vito and I are still figuring out the technical things. Now, I'm supposed to press. Can you move it? Okay. Because I'm going to use my notes here. Yes, I will. Open up. We didn't have time to set up really